exciting materials that I hope you'll find.
Dragons Dogma II is the sequel to the 2012 Dragons Dogma, and it's interesting, to say the least. Let's get the negatives out of the way first. Yes, there are microtransactions in the single-player game. No, they are not intrusive, but they are there, however, which is Capcom's thing. That's kind of what they do now. That aside, there's some terrible optimization issues and performance on PC. When I was recording footage for this, I mean, if you can see it in the top left-hand corner, the frame rates are just all over the place. Occasionally I'd get a solid 60 here and there, and when I'm not recording I get 60 here and more often than not, but the game is definitely not running the way it should. And the other negative, well, there's a few. I do have some positives though, but I want to get the negatives out of the way first. There was a lot of running around in Dragons Dogma 2. Now you can take ox carts from point A to point B, which occasionally get raided, so you have to kind of fight them off. You can hop back on it and carry on along your merry way. There is a fast travel method utilizing like portal stones, but obviously they are very few and far in between. The cost of things in shops is astronomically high, but then you do get quite a lot of gold for completing side quests, main quests, and looking through chests and exploring. And exploration is rewarded in this game, I'll give it that. And my final negative is the combat is a mixed bag. It's very clunky, and the stun locking on yourself is insane. If you get attacked by a band of enemies, goblins, harpies, whatever, and they just keep attacking you one after the other, they will just stun lock you, and you can't move, you can't do anything, and if you die, that's it, you revert back to a save. Unlike your pawns, if they go down, you can revive them. If you go down, that's it, game over. It's kind of like dying, like the main character dying in Final Fantasy 13. It's very annoying, but when combat does work, you do feel like a badass, and it is pretty cool. But it just feels like an unrefined version of the Dark Souls combat. In my opinion, that's kind of what it feels like. You do level up, depending on which class or vocation you choose. You can level them up, unlock more skills, and then upgrade said skills and equip them. So there is some pretty cool stuff that you can do. Dragon's Dogma also has the climbing on massive monsters and hacking and slashing away, which is really cool, although I do think that a lot of monsters have far too much health, and they just are spongy as all hell. Which is I mean, the game, it has its niche audience, and I'm not part of that niche audience. I have the first one, I've played it a little bit, didn't really gel towards it. However, I was curious on Dragon's Dogma 2. I did not get it full price, and I do not recommend you get it full price, because of its performance issues and the fact that its gameplay, I think, is an acquired taste. I don't hate the game, I like it, but I don't like it as much as I want to like it because of the few negatives. Now, this is a game that just kind of... there's a massive world to explore. The main story is so-so. It's nothing too... it's been done before. It's the Chosen One, yada yada bollocks. We've heard it all before. There's some good voice acting. There's a few cool characters in the mix as well. The locations are really nice, and especially the vistas. If you're running around and you're looking at the castles in the distance, and you can go to them, and that's all really cool. You can see griffins and dragons and whatnot flying around, and you can actually go and engage with them and attack them. The pawns that are with you can say some funny stuff, but most of the time they just don't shut the smeg up, and they just continually keep talking. This is one of those games where the longer you're out in the world and doing stuff, your health bar will get shorter and shorter depending on how much damage you take, so you're going to want to rest at campsites and cook food for buffs and etc. So there's all of that in the mix. Quests are usually given out by passing NPCs and then kind of asking you for help for things. Some quests are timed, others are not. It's nothing that's not been done before, but Dragon's Dogma 2 is just, I think I don't know, it's an interesting game. It's one that I'm glad I played. I did have fun with it, but I do not recommend you pick this one up at full price. This is definitely not a 70 quid game. That is for sure. A lot of elements graphically and mechanically wise are last gen, like decade old gen, because it feels just like the first one. Although, like I said, I'm not a hardcore Dragon's Dogma fan. I'm a casual Dragon's Dogma fan, so just bear that one in mind. But compared to like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example, that was released a month before this game, that game feels like a 70 quid game, although 70 quid is still too expensive for video games, in my opinion. I don't know what happened here, and I hope Capcom sort it out. It's locked to 30 on consoles, which is dreadful. Frame rates were one of the big things pushed for the PlayStation 5 on Xbox Series X, and the fact that this game can't do that speaks, well, just an absolute flood of words on what the hell was going on behind the scenes. But yeah, watch some videos, watch some gameplay. There are a lot of YouTubers absolutely sucking the chong of this one and saying it's ruined other RPGs for them. I don't see that. I'm a massive RPG and JRPG man, and this game does nothing new, really, for it. Elden Ring does what I think this game's trying to accomplish much better, besides the fact that you can't climb on the monsters in Elden Ring. But I just think that game handles its exploration and wonder and stuff a hell of a lot better. But that doesn't mean that Dragon's Dogma 2 is a terrible game. It is not. It has its pros, it has its cons, and it's not going to be for everybody. It is sort of for me. It might be one that warms up, the more I play it, and I do intend on going through the original Dragon's Dogma as well, just to go through it because I have it on my backlog. But let me know in the comments down below if you've checked out Dragon's Dogma 2, and no, do not buy this full price, please, because you might be disappointed with the performance, and it may also just not be your type of game. I would wait for a sale, a hardcore sale, in my opinion, if they don't sort out the performance issues and frame rates. But as always, thank you very much for watching.
Finish pushing.